Hello students and learners, welcome to the Brainbox tutorials 11 and 12, and in this video we will do third and the final part of the story The Landlady by Roald Dahl. If you want to see the previous part, here is the link of the playlist, you can see there. Okay, so let us continue with the story. Second part has ended when Billy Weaver was signing the guest book and he saw the names of two previous guests, Christopher Mullerland and Gregory Temple, and he felt that he has heard these names before. Now let us continue. Now, where on earth had he heard that rather unusual name before? Now he thinks that he has heard this name, Christopher Mullerland. It is rather unusual name and I have heard this or read this somewhere and he doesn't remember it. So he's trying to recall the name. Was it a boy at school? No. Was it one of his sister's numerous young men? Perhaps, or a friend of his father's? No, it wasn't any of those. He glanced down again at the book. So he's thinking whether Christopher Mullerland was student, that is his colleague in the same school they were, or maybe he was one of his sister's numerous boyfriends, or maybe his father's friend. But then he cancels all his assumptions saying no, none of them. Then he again looked at the proper name and address. So first one is Christopher Mullerland, 231 Cathedral Road, Cardiff. Gregory W. Temple, 27 Sycamore Drive, Bristol. As a matter of fact, now he came to think of it, he wasn't at all sure that the second name didn't have almost as much of a familiar ring about it as the first. Gregory Temple? He said aloud, searching his memory. Christopher Mullerland? So he is trying to recall the names. When he read the second name, he feels that he has heard this name also, although not as familiar ring as Christopher Mullerland. That name seemed more familiar to him, but he has heard this name also. So he is trying to recall. So he is calling out the two names loudly and he is thinking, Gregory Temple, Christopher Mullerland. And from behind a voice comes. Such charming voice. A voice behind him answered, and he turned and saw his landlady stealing into the room with a large silver tea tray in her hands. Stealing into, that is coming very quickly with enthusiasm and energy. She is coming inside the room and then she said, they are such charming young men. And she had a large silver tea tray. So she brought tea for Billy. She was holding it well out in front of her and rather high up, as though the tray were a pair of reins on a frisky horse. Reins are the long narrow strap which is attached to the horse, that is at one end of horse, and frisky horse is a very energetic horse. So she was holding the tea tray so high as if she was afraid that this tray would fall down and her tea would spill. So as if to control a more energetic horse, how a person tightly holds the rein of the horse so that he doesn't fall. Similarly, she is holding the tea tray rather high and strongly. So here tea also plays a very important role, huh? They sound somehow familiar, he said. He said that because the names sound very familiar, I feel that I have heard these names before. So the lady asked, they do? How interesting. That means it's really interesting that you have come all the way from London to this lonely place and now you see the two names which look familiar. That is interesting. I'm also positive I've heard those names before somewhere. Isn't that odd? Maybe it was in the newspapers. They weren't famous in any way, were they? I mean famous cricketers or footballers or something like that. So Billy asked that I'm very positive that confirm that I've heard these names before. Maybe it was in the newspapers. Are they famous? Are they famous sports stars, cricketers or footballers or something like that? Lady answers, famous, she said, setting the tea tray down on the low table in front of the sofa. Oh no, I don't think they were famous. But they were incredibly handsome, both of them. I can promise you that. They were tall and young and handsome, my dear, just exactly like you. Now see how she is changing the topic, although she is talking about the two boys. But how she has changed the topic of whether she knows those two people or how is it possible for Billy to know them. So she just said that no, I don't think they were famous, but yes, I can bet that they were incredibly handsome. Both of them were very good looking boys, tall and young and handsome. And then she says, just exactly like you. That means she likes young, handsome boys. Once more, Billy glanced down at the book. Look here, he said, noticing the dates. This last entry is over 2 years old. So now he looks at the dates. When have they come? to this place. He observes that the last entry, that is by Gregory, this entry was made 2 years ago. That means he has come 2 years ago. It is? The lady is asking. Yes, indeed. And Christopher Mulholland's is nearly a year before that. That is more than 3 years ago. So Christopher Mulholland has visited this place 3 years ago, and Gregory Temple has visited this place 2 years ago. That is long back. Dear me, she said, shaking her head and heaving a dainty little sigh. Dainty, that is small, so small little sigh she made. And then she said, I would never have thought it. How time does fly away from us all. Doesn't it, Mr. Wilkins? It's Weaver, Billy said. Weaver, Weaver. Okay, so again she has mispronounced his name. So she said that really time flies. I had never imagined that they had come 3 years or 2 years ago. And then she asks, yes, is it Mr. Wilkins? And then he reminds that I am not Mr. Wilkins, I am Mr. Weaver. Oh, of course it is, she cried, sitting down on the sofa. How silly of me, I do apologize. In one ear and out the other. That's me, Mr. Weaver. That means in one ear and out the other. That means I have the habit of forgetting. I hear from one ear the name, and from the other ear it's gone. That means it, I cannot just keep it inside my mind. So I forget names. You know something? Billy said. Something that's really quite extraordinary about all this? That means about what? About the names and all. So he is continuously trying to coming back to the topic of the two men, and she is continuously dragging him out of that topic, and she is talking about something else. Like she started talking about her forgetting nature and all, but he wants to know something about those two names. So he said, he asked this, that what I found quite extraordinary about everything, that means these names and all. So the lady says, no dear, I don't. Well, you see, both of these names, Mulholland and Temple, I not only seem to remember each one of them separately, so to speak, but somehow or other, in some peculiar way, they both appear to be sort of connected together as well, as though they were both famous for the same sort of thing. If you see what I mean, like, well, like Dempsey and Tony, for example, or Churchill and Roosevelt. Churchill and Roosevelt both were the presidents. So similarly, Mulholland and Temple, now I remember that they are similar or somehow related to each other in a very strange way, because something similar has happened to both of them. And that is why they are famous for the same sort of thing. I remember this. But I don't remember what was that. What was that thing? How amusing, she said. But come over here now, dear, and sit down beside me on the sofa, and I'll give you a nice cup of tea and a ginger biscuit before you go to bed. But see, again, she tried to deviate his mind from that topic. And she said that, okay, but come here now, I would serve you tea with ginger biscuit. You really shouldn't bother, Billy said. I didn't mean you to do anything like that, because he did not say or he did not ask the lady to bring him tea. So why are you worrying about me? Why are you bothering? He stood by the piano, watching her as she fussed about with the cups and saucers. He noticed that she had small, white, quickly moving hands and red fingernails. Now, another example of appearance and deception. She appears to be a very gentle lady, but what Bill notices here, that landlady has red painted nails, a details that is not congruent, that is not similar with her kind and caring nature. And maybe it indicates perhaps her evil and bloody intentions. But the way she is appearing to be very nice and kind, that is just opposite to what her fingers or her nails show. I'm almost positive it was in the newspapers. I saw them, Billy said. Now Billy is very sure that he has read these two names in the newspaper for some news. I'll think of it in a second. I'm sure I'll. There is nothing more tantalizing than a thing like this that lingers just outside the borders of one's memory. He hated to give up. Tantalizing means torturing. So the author says that there is nothing more torturing than something which is there in your memory, not in your memory, it is just outside your memory, and you know something about a particular thing but you don't know everything about it. So that is like a torture. Why can't I remember the names of those two persons? Because he remembers that he has read something about these two people in the newspapers, but he doesn't remember the news. So that is a kind of a torture, a torment for him. Now wait a minute, he said. Wait just a minute. Mulholland, Christopher Mulholland. Wasn't that the name of the Eton schoolboy who was on a walking tour through the West Country? And then all of a sudden, now he remembers this. See, he says, oh, wait just a minute, Mulholland, Christopher Mulholland wasn't the name from Eton. Eton is the name of school, very famous school. So he says that he was a schoolboy, he studied in Eton, and he has come on a walking tour here. And then all of a sudden, and he is trying to say something. All of a sudden, actually, Mulholland was killed, murdered. So all of a sudden, his disappearing news has must have come. But she again tries to change the topic. What she is asking? Milk, she said, and sugar? Yes, please. And then all of a sudden, Eton schoolboy? She said. She's asking this. Eton schoolboy? Oh no, my dear, that can't possibly be right, because my Mr. Mulholland was certainly not an Eton schoolboy when he came to me. He was a Cambridge undergraduate. So she says that no, he was not Eton schoolboy. The Mulholland, that is Christopher Mulholland, which came to my place, was a Cambridge undergraduate and not a schoolboy of Eton. Then she again urges him to come here to have tea. So see how she is pestering him to drink that tea. Come over here now and sit next to me and warm yourself in front of this lovely fire. Come on, your tea is all ready for you. She patted the empty place beside her on the sofa, and she sat there smiling at Billy and waiting for him to come over. So she again said that, okay, forget all those things. Now first come here, sit near me, warm yourself in front of fire, and then have this tea. This is ready for you. He crossed the room slowly and sat down on the edge of the sofa. She placed his teacup on the table in front of him. There we are, she said. How nice and cozy this is, isn't it? Billy started sipping his tea. She did the same. For half a minute or so, neither of them spoke. So none of them are speaking, they are just having their tea. But Billy knew that she was looking at him. When you are not looking at somebody, you are looking down and having your tea, but you can feel somewhere from your end of the eye that somebody is looking at you or somebody has an eye on you. Similar thing is happening with Billy. Billy is drinking tea. He is not looking at the lady, but he knows that she is continuously staring at him. Her body was half turned towards him, and he could feel her eyes resting on his face, watching him over the rim of her teacup. Now and again, he caught a whiff of a peculiar smell that seemed to emanate directly from her person, and suddenly he could smell a kind of a odor coming out of the lady's body. What kind of a smell it is? It was not in the least unpleasant, and it reminded him, well, he wasn't quite sure what it reminded him of. Not in the least means not at all. That means the smell was not unpleasant, not at all unpleasant. But he doesn't quite understand what kind of a smell it is. Pickled walnuts? New leather, or was it the corridors of a hospital? Like a kind of a peculiar smell comes from hospital, that kind of a smell, or of new leather or pickled walnuts. At length, she said, that means after a while, she said, Mr. Mulholland was a great one for his tea. Never in my life have I seen anyone drink as much tea as dear sweet Mr. Mulholland. Now she suddenly started speaking about Mr. Mulholland. She was the one who was avoiding the topic, and now she is talking about Mr. Mulholland, how he loved drinking tea, and she has never seen any person who can drink as much tea as this person, Mr. Mulholland. I suppose he left fairly recently, Billy said. He was still puzzling his head about the two names. So he was still puzzling, but he asked this question that I suppose he left fairly recently, because you remember him quite well. He was positive now he had seen them in the newspapers, in the headlines. Now he is positive. He is very sure that he has seen the pictures of these two men and read some interesting news about them in the headlines. So if the news is in headlines, that means it's a very important news. Now lady asked left, because he has asked, I suppose he left fairly recently. So for that she is answering left, matlab chhod gaya. She said, arching her brows. But my dear boy, he never left. He is still here. Mr. Temple is also here. They are on the fourth floor, both of them together. Now remember, second floor she says that the whole floor is mine. Third floor he gives to Billy. And one more floor is there, that is fourth floor, and she is now saying that no, they have not left. Both of them are here. They still live here. They both live together on the fourth floor. Now, this is quite a revelation. Billy should get a hint out of this particular statement. Still, what does Billy do? Billy set his cup down slowly on the table and stared at his landlady. She smiled back at him, and then she put out one of her white hands and patted him comfortingly on the knees. How old are you, my dear? She asked. 17. So he is also 17 years old. 17? She cried. Oh, it's the perfect age. Now, perfect age for what? But she cried. Oh, that means she is very happy to know that Billy Weaver is 17 years old. Mr. Mullerland was also 17, but I think he was a trifle shorter than you are. In fact, I'm sure he was, and his teeth weren't quite so white. So she is so observing in nature, especially observing the appearance of a person, how the person's teeth were, how short or tall the person was, the age of that person, how handsome they looked. You have the most beautiful teeth, Mr. Fever. Did you know that? They are not as good as they look, Billy said. They have got simply masses of fillings in them at the back. Now, Billy just casually said that no, they are actually not as strong or good health wise as they look, because they have already got much of filling. That means cavity filling and all I've already done to my teeth. Mr. Temple, of course, was a little older. Now she started talking about the second one, Mr. Temple. She said, ignoring his remark. He was actually 28 years old man. And yet I never would have guessed it if he hadn't told me. Never in my whole life. There wasn't a blemish on his body. Now she talks about Mr. Temple that he was 28-year-old man, but he looked quite younger than his age. I would have never been able to guess his correct age, but he was the one who told me that I am 28 years old, because he did not have any spot on his body. Now see, again he is talking about his physical appearance. What? Billy said. His skin was just like a baby's. What? That means he is also quite surprised. Not a blemish on his body. What does she mean to say by that? So he asked again, what? She tries to explain. His skin was just like a baby's. That means so soft and blemish free. There was a pause. Maybe Billy was not ready to consume that fact. So Billy picked up his teacup, took another sip of his tea, then he set it down again gently in its saucer. He waited for her to say something else, but she seemed to have lapsed into another of her silences. He just had a sip of tea and then he waited that lady would say something, but lady again was thinking something. He sat there staring straight ahead of him into the far corner of the room, biting his lower lip. So he started looking here and there in the room. That parrot, he said at last. You know something? It had me completely fooled when I first saw it through the window. I could have sworn it was alive. Now that means that parrot is not alive. So he said now he is looking at the parrot so closely. So he is quite surprised. He said that you know something? I thought that that parrot is alive. I had never imagined that this parrot would be stuffed. That parrot is not alive. So the lady says, alas, no longer. That means it's very sad, but yes, no longer alive. It's most terribly clever the way it's been done, he said. It doesn't look in the least bit dead. Who did it? Now Billy appreciates the artist, whoever has done it, whoever has preserved the parrot in such a way that although it is dead, still it looks alive. The lady answers, I did. You did? He surprisingly asked this. Of course, she said. And have you met my little Basil as well? She nodded towards the dachshund curled up so comfortably in front of the fire. Billy looked at it, and suddenly he realized that this animal had all the time been just as silent and motionless as the parrot. Now, the lady said that, didn't you meet this dog? Her dog's name is Basil, that dachshund. So Billy suddenly realized that he has seen this dog from outside the window of the house. At that time also it was sitting in that position. Now when he entered the living room after so long, it was still in that position. He put out a hand and touched it gently on the top of its back. The back was hard and cold, and when he pushed the hair to one side with his fingers, he could see the skin underneath, grayish black and dry and perfectly preserved. That means this dog is also dead, and the body of the dog is again preserved similarly like that of parrots. Good gracious me, he said. How absolutely fascinating. He turned away from the dog and stared with deep admiration at the little woman beside him on the sofa. He actually admired that lady, that what an artist she is. The dog looked real. It must be most awfully difficult to do a thing like that. And he asked that it must be very difficult for you to do this. The lady answers, not in the least, she said. That means not at all. It was easy. I stuff all my little pets myself when they pass away. Will you have another cup of tea? And then she said that I stuff all my little one when they pass away. I preserve them like this only, stuff my pets. And then she asked for another cup of tea. No, thank you, Billy said. The tea tasted faintly of bitter almonds, and he didn't much care for it. He did not like the taste of the tea because it tasted like bitter almonds. ठीक है, जब बादाम खारे हो जाते तो कैसा टेस्ट आता है, that kind of a taste was there of that tea. That is why he didn't want another tea. And what is the reason behind it? Do you know that? Because she has mixed poison in the tea, and Billy had drunk the tea because he did not suspect this lady a bit because of her kind and generous nature. And that is why the theme is so important, appearance and deception. The lady asked, you did sign the book, didn't you? Oh, yes. So she is just making sure whether you have signed the guest book, and Billy answers, yes, yes, I have signed it. That's good, because later on, if I happen to forget what you were called, then I could always come down here and look it up. I still do that almost every day with Mr. Mulholland and Mr. So she says that that's good that you have written the name. Why? Because my forgetting nature, I happen to forget the names. So if later it happens that I forget your name, at least I can come down and see the guest book, which I do almost every day, so that I can remember the names of these two people, Mr. Mulholland and Mr. And then he reminds, that is Billy Weaver reminds, Temple, Billy said, that is Gregory Temple. Excuse my asking, but haven't there been any other guests here except them in the last 2 or 3 years? Then he asked that whether there have been only two guests, Gregory Temple and Mr. Mulholland, that's it, in the last 2 or 3 years. Holding her teacup high in one hand, inclining her head slightly to the left, she looked up at him out of the corners of her eyes and gave him another gentle little smile. No, my dear, she said, only you. So she held her teacup high in one end as if it is a sign of her conquest, because he has drunk all the tea. That means he has eaten the poison as well. So she looked at him in a very evil manner and says that no, my dear, only you. That means after those two, you are the one who has come. And now the story ends. So although the story has an abrupt ending, but we understand that what has happened to Billy. Billy was obviously dead because he has already taken the poison, and now the lady will preserve Billy's body as well. So it's a very interesting, mysterious, full of suspense and horror short story, The Landlady. I am very sure you have liked this story. Now let us quickly go through some of the symbols which had been presented here in the story, and then few more themes. From the starting of the story itself, when Billy spots the charming looking bed and breakfast, he was attracted or captivated by it so much that he abandons his plans to find or to go to that particular place, Bell and Dragon. So appearance of the place, but how it deceived the decision of the protagonist. Then the landlady herself, she appeared to be quite kind, generous and harmless lady, but in reality, she was an evil lady. She was a murderer. Then when he proceeds towards the house, he notices a vase of yellow chrysanthemums. They looked beautiful, but that is the chrysanthemum flower is a symbol of death. Then the next theme is adulthood versus innocence. Here, the landlady, she is a wicked lady. She manipulates Billy Weaver, who is just 17 years old. Then third one is the folly of youth. Because of Billy Weaver's youth and his inexperience, he chose the wrong lodgings. He was attracted because of the looks. He was ready to take this place because of the low rent. Not only in this context, but as in the starting of the story itself, it was said that he tries to be everything briskly because he is simply copying them, copying all the big shots because he wants to become like that. So that is also one of the follies of that person, that if he likes somebody or if he wants to be like somebody, he will simply start copying them. Then there are symbols. One is yellow chrysanthemums. Chrysanthemums, they are brightly looking flowers, but they are symbol of death. So that is a kind of a foreshadowing. That means giving a hint that something dangerous is going to happen, something evil is going to happen. Then the T, this is also a very important part of the story because it symbolizes the horrific deception, the cruelty, and the criminality of this lady. Despite saying that he is not hungry and he wants to go to bed early because he wants to get up early, she forces him to have tea. Then, next one is stuffed pets. They symbolize landlady's immense and surprising skill for deception. Remember when Billy peers through the windows of the bed and breakfast at the beginning of the story? He looks at these two animals, the dog and then the parrot, and he feels that the person, the owner of the house, must be kind-hearted and caring in nature because the person loves pets. So these are the important symbols and themes of the story. Okay, so we'll meet in the next video with any new chapter or a poetry. Till then, go through the story again, and if you don't understand anything, you are free to ask in the comment box. I'll reply to it. See you very soon. Bye bye. Jai Hind.